What's up guys, Mr. Baker here. Welcome to lesson 0.1 Visual Studio Code. So before we get started, what you should do is put this lesson in your second window, and in your main window put Visual Studio Code. And the reason is because the content sometimes has links or visuals that you're going to want to see. So follow along with me as I scroll down through the content of the lesson. So there's two parts to this video. The first one is an introduction to Visual Studio Code and the various basic functions of the editor. And the second part is coding. We're going to do some coding in the terminal and just try to get our feet wet a little bit with some coding in Python. The objective today, the learning goal, which is here, is just to understand the software development process a little better. And if you can utilize some of the features of this IDE, by the time we're done, then you will have accomplished that. So what is an IDE? Well, it's an integrated development environment, and Visual Studio Code is one of these. So integrated really just means that it has lots of different coding functions that work together to help you write programs, whereas development means the actual process of writing programs or applications. So when you first load Visual Studio Code, you should see this welcome screen. There's a few nice things. I guess you can start a new file, open a folder. Shows you what you've been working on recently, and it's got some help stuff. But I don't tend to use this very often, so I just usually disable it and close this tab, because eventually you get all these different tabs open up here, and this just kind of takes up space. So with that closed, I want you to check out this File Explorer. That's the first button to a couple pages right up here. Now, the File Explorer basically has a lot of functions that are similar to the Windows Explorer. You can add folders and files, move them, rename them, and basically keep everything organized. Now, you can't really do anything in VS Code until you open a folder. And basically, what we're gonna do is to start by creating an ICS3U folder. So click Open Folder and select your Google Drive. We're gonna work off of our G drive so that you have all of your files available on the cloud and you can work from home. Let's create an ICS3U folder. You're actually gonna have to click New Folder and type ICS3U, press enter, and then once that's done, click select folder. Okay, so now that you've done that, you should be able to see when you put your mouse over here a couple new icons that have popped up because we have a folder open. So now we can add files and folders to this folder, ICS3U. Let's go ahead and add another folder, Unit 0. So next, let's add some files. Click this. We'll type hello.py. And let's add boo.js and sup.css. Now, I'm not seeing any icons here. You may be, but I've been messing with my extensions. So in any case, be sure that you get the extensions right there. The extensions are the letters that come after the period, right? So JS and Pi and CSS. Now what you should notice here is that for each file we created, we got a tab, much like in Google Chrome, right? Or Internet Explorer. And we can select the file that we want to work on by clicking that tab. So the next part is the search button. Control-Shift-F is the hotkey. And really, you can use this like you would in Word, the search feature there. You can find any text, any piece of text in any file that you're working on. This is a really powerful search function, and we'll use it later. After that comes source control. Now, source control is for GitHub, which is a very popular way of controlling versions of your software. Now, when you have that set up, it's kind of like a system for saving or reverting your work. And this is used by a lot of professionals, but in this course, we just don't need it. So if you're going to end up programming for a living, you're going to end up using that. And certainly look at it in ICS4U. After that comes debug. All right, so debug, this window allows you to kind of monitor the status of the details of your program while it's running. And we're going to be using this quite a lot once we start writing bigger programs. Extensions. So the last box here, extensions, contains all of the plugins and user-coded stuff that you could ever want for this program to make it look cool or to make it, to change its functionality. Let's do an example for if we go back to our File Explorer, you notice how, for me at least, I have no icons on these files, which is kind of crappy. So, and if you have some, they're the default ones. So we'll make those a little bit better. So in extensions, the search box, what I want you to do is just type material icon theme. And what you should see come up, this top one right here, we're just going to click install. Wait for that to go. There it is. And once it's done, this button will come up that says reload. So just click reload. And the program will reboot itself. And then go up here to File Explorer. And now you can see that each of these files has kind of a cool icon that goes with it, depending on the extension. And this, snake one here is the Python icon. So the next thing I want to show you is the command palette. So the command palette you can access by clicking View Command Palette or Control-Shift-P. Now when you do that, you'll see this, and this is kind of like the search bar in Windows 10. You can type whatever you want in here. I'll type icon, and what that does is it actually makes a list of all the preferences and settings that contain a reference to icon. So click Preferences, File Icon Theme. Now what that does is it brings up the list of icon packs that we have available for our files. And here's the one that we installed, Material Icon Theme. So in fact, I probably had none selected before, but you probably had one of these. So you can disable your icons or select minimal. And by the way, the latest thing you just selected in the command palette will always be there if you go back. So I'm just going to put my material icon theme back. But this is really handy because it kind of saves you from having to dig through these menus to find settings, which is always a pain in the butt. So for example, the icon settings are actually down here in preferences all the way down there. So you can get them through the menu, but you can also just type in icon. Now the next thing we could do is use the command palette to change our color theme. So your Visual Studio Code probably doesn't look like mine right now. Let's click View, Command Palette, and type Color Theme. And you should see Preferences, Color Theme. Now a whole bunch of these come by default. You're probably seeing light or dark Visual Studio. I'm currently using Solarized Dark, which I find to be pretty cool, but you can try different versions and instantly all the colors will change. And this affects your code and basically everything that you're writing. So you need something that you can look at for a good long time, but I like this Solarized Dark, so I'm going to leave it like that for now. So last but not least is the console area. Now if you don't see the console area like me, you can go View and click Output, and that'll bring up all four of these down here in one shot. Now these four sections stay down here. They tend to stay down here by default, but you can move them around. So each of these has kind of a different function. Each of these problems shows kind of issues, unresolved issues in your code, which you can address. Output shows only your program's output. More on that later. Debug console. So the debug console again is used to help debug your programs. You can type things in here to get information. And finally, the terminal is kind of like a command prompt, and this is going to be what we're going to be using for the next part of the program.